Clippers versus Suns series ended its second game last night. The Suns taking a 2-0 lead on the Clippers, who just apparently love playing from down 2 games to nothing. I don't know what it is about this Clippers team, but that just appears to be the trend for the team throughout the playoffs, as now this is the third straight series in which they have fallen back 2-0 in terms of the overall series score in every single playoff round that they have played so far. It's such a confusing, weird team, the Clippers are. And I said it against the Jazz that, hey, the Jazz are a different breed of team than the Mavericks are. It's going to be harder for them to do it again. And then they rattle off 4 straight wins against the Jazz. And now here we are saying, well, the Suns are a different breed of team than the Jazz were. And I hesitate to say that now because I don't want to count the Clippers out based on what we've seen so far in the playoffs. But it being what they may, the Clippers are down 2-0 again, this time against the Phoenix Suns that have been playing without their floor general, their vocal leader in Chris Paul. I've been wanting to talk about Chris Paul for the past week or so. I wanted to talk about them, or Kim specifically, directly, after they swept the Denver Nuggets. But I withheld on talking about that because the day that I was going to talk about that on the show, Chris Paul ended up getting coronavirus. And the whole slogan for this segment was going to be, I am super happy for Chris Paul. And it would have been a little weird for me to say, oh man, I am really happy. Like, Chris Paul should get a round of applause. I'm really happy for Chris Paul when he ends up getting a virus that has killed so many people. It would have felt a little awkward to make that take at that moment, so I withheld on it. And now that the Phoenix Suns are up 2-0 against the Clippers, I think it's a good time to kind of reintroduce that take, especially because Chris Paul is rumored to be going to be available for Game 3 in LA moving forward. I am, now that we have the chance to talk about it, very happy for Chris Paul, and I'm very happy that he has finally found a role on a team that suits him the best. And I'm happy for him that he's been able to lead this Phoenix Suns team and really be that father figure for a young, up-and-rising Phoenix Suns team that coming into the playoffs, I thought, okay, this year they're going to be a team that has a great regular season, but they're going to flame out in the playoffs because they don't have that experience. And then they'll come back next year and they'll be really dominant. But no, the Suns, kind of like the Hawks in the Eastern Conference have, exceeded expectations, and I contribute that a lot to the tutelage that Chris Paul has been able to give this Phoenix Suns team, especially in a Game 2 situation like last night where, hey, look, Devin Booker didn't play well. He had objectively a pretty bad game. He was 5 for 16 from the floor, 1 for 3 from three-point range. He hit all his free throws. He was 9 for 9, and he ended with 20 points. But for Devin Booker's standards, in which his job on the team is to be a wet bucket, he is supposed to just drain threes and really shoot the ball well and provide a lot of the points for this team. If Devin Booker had this type of game last season and the season before that, Phoenix would have absolutely lost that game. I would argue that any night that Devin Booker wasn't putting up 25 to 30 or more, the Phoenix Suns were oftentimes losing that game. And now you have a team in which this team, sure, obviously it's different. This team has not only matured, but it has grown in such a way that you can really see Chris Paul's mentorship throughout the team. A lot of calmness, no overreacting. They seem very determined. They seem very, very Chris Paul-esque. And you see it towards the end of a game last night, which, as I said, Devin Booker was not playing well. Towards the very end, you have 0.9 seconds left to find a basket. Now, some of this is due to the fact that DeMarcus Cousins, just in a brain-dead play, was not covering the baseline or not putting his hands up above the baseline. Because, hey, look, any basketball person will tell you if they have 0.9 seconds left in the game, the only hope that they have of scoring is a lob to the hoop. And he wasn't covering the baseline, and DeAndre Ayton was just that much taller than Zubac, and he was able to slam it home for the wins to take the 2-0 series lead. But the guts and the maturity of this Phoenix Suns team is something so rare for a team that's this young. And I really, really wanted to commend Chris Paul for his mentorship and the father role that he's kind of taken on for this team, and I think it suits him best. You take a look at 2 out of his last 3 stops. He was in Houston, in which he was expected to play alongside James Harden and still be a number 2 scorer, still be a dominant point guard on that team. Obviously, for his stop in LA with DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin, he was supposed to be the number one, number two scorer on that team. He was forced to play in a role in which he needed to be present almost all the time. He couldn't really just sit back and manage the game like a true point guard would. And sometimes, more or less, and obviously for other reasons in LA, it didn't work out, mainly because they were all butting heads. But you take a look at his situations in recent years in which he goes to OKC and he leads a team that had no business being in the playoffs to a playoff appearance in the bubble. Chris Paul has kind of settled into the latter stages of his career in which he can take a step back, be that number 3 or number 4 scorer, but still be such a dominant passer and floor general. And I love this role for him. I feel like he's happy in this role. He gets to lead this team. And all the experience and all the knowledge and all the mentoring that has taken place by Chris Paul throughout the season for the Phoenix Suns has really allowed the Suns to be able to win games like this. And again, I don't want to put all the credit on Chris Paul because I do think that Monty Williams is a fantastic basketball coach, but I do see Chris Paul's fingerprints all over the team when it comes to the calmness of the team, the guts of the team, the ability to fight through adversity. I think this Phoenix Suns team is really great and it's really benefited from Chris Paul. And it was a signing that at the beginning of last offseason, maybe people would have shrugged off or said, okay, well, Chris Paul's just going to another young team and it won't really mean much. It has meant the world to this Phoenix Suns team, which, as I stated at the beginning of this take, if the Phoenix Suns had a game like last night in which their primary scorer in Devin Booker was having a bad game last season and the season before that, they would have lost that game. They would have lost the game. DeAndre Ayton would have been forced to do more than he was asked to try and kind of substantiate the blow and try and, get some score up. But Chris Paul and his mentorship has really meant the world to this Phoenix Suns team, and you could see it in how they play basketball. You could see it in how they handle adversity, and I'm very proud and happy that Chris Paul has been able to find this role for the team, and now the national media is taking, and that's kind of the most important thing, is the fact that the national media is becoming aware of it, and they're getting to see it, and they're starting to give him some praise that he is due. Some praise that I think was taken away in which he failed to, move past the Western Conference Finals in his time in LA and his time in Houston being not what it was supposed to be because of Harden, and of course him being on a team that wasn't very good, but he led that team to the playoffs last year in OKC, and now he's at it again, and now the media is taking notice of what Chris Paul can do and what he means as a mentor and what he means in a leadership role for a young, rising basketball team that is exceeding expectations in these playoffs. It's made me incredibly happy for Chris Paul. I hope he gets to play in Game 3, and I'm not really taking sides here. Obviously, this is an unbiased show, but I think it would mean even more if, the Suns really even get a bigger boost from Chris Paul when he comes back after suffering from getting coronavirus, which is just unfortunate that he got it, even though he was vaccinated. A very unfortunate circumstance for him, but I wanted to make this take last week about how happy I was for Chris Paul that he's getting the spotlight and the recognition that he deserves for what he's doing for Phoenix. And now that, Phoenix is up 2-0 and he looks like he's going to be coming back for Thursday's game, I kind of get the opportunity to get that take out today. Hey folks, thank you so much for listening to this segment from the Hard Headed Sports Podcast. If you enjoyed this segment, make sure that you drop a like on the video and a comment. It helps me out a bunch. And if you're interested in watching more segments like this from the show after the show has been completed, you should definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you're interested in listening to the entire show in its full-length entirety, you should listen to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. Once again, thank you so much for watching the video. My name is Nick Ryan, and I will see you all again very soon.